Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to Time Rift, the collectible card game. So in this video, we're going to go over the starter set. What is Time Rift, first of all? It is a spiritual successor to the card game called Anachronism, or Anachrism as I tend to call it, which is a historical battling card game. It combines a tactical board element with having a loadout of cards. But you don't actually have a hand. There is going to be a tutorial video where I kind of go through exactly how to play the game. You can check out the link in the description for that. We just kind of want to focus today on more of what's in the core box. And we're also going to open up a booster pack as well, just to kind of get an idea of what would be in there. So what the game is basically based out of is each player has 5 cards. They have a champion. It can be someone from various parts of history. It can be from different cultures and countries. Like here on the cover, we have Miyamoto Musashi from Japan. But we can get like Cleopatra from Egypt. We can get Caesar. We can get Abraham Lincoln. We can get try to think of some of the other notable ones. Spartacus is a big one in there. So we got all the different warriors from history. Then they have 4 cards called logos, which consist of a weapon, an armor, an inspiration, and a special card. And the special card can kind of fall into just about anything. It could be an additional weapon or armor, or it could just be a unique thing that doesn't necessarily fit one of those other 3 things. Sometimes it could be like an ally, or it could be a cavalry card like a horse, or it could be an item that they might carry with them. So a bunch of interesting stuff. And then basically the idea of how the game is played, you are going to move your champion fighting another champion across a grid on a battlefield. And then each turn you flip up one of these other cards you have, called your loadout cards, and they will then activate. So the first turn you might flip up a weapon. Now you have access to a weapon to use. Your second round you might flip up your armor. Now you have armor to help protect you. Then your third round you flip up your inspiration. Now you have that special ability to trigger, which would do something to help boost you up or hinder your opponent. And the game is played over basically 5 rounds. So it's not a long drawn out game. It's not even necessarily a game like something like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh, which could end in like a turn, like 1 turn. You could maybe win by like turn 3, but you're probably not going to very often have, or very easily have, like 1 turn wins, in that sense. Yeah, so we'll look at the board listed. The other cool thing is all the booster packs come with 10 cards plus 3 booster cards. So why 10 cards? Each logo is a champion in their 4 cards, so it's 5 cards, and then the other 5 cards are the other ones. So each booster pack, you'll get 2 sets of characters, and when you get their, or warriors, and when you get their cards, you get all cards that are kind of associated with them. So if I get, like, example, if I gotten, like, Musashi in a booster pack, he's only in the starter deck, but if I got him in a booster pack, I get his 4 Japanese-themed cards that went with them. Same thing with, like, Spartacus, and you get his Greek cards. Then the other 3 are called Chronos cards, which are going to be, one of them is going to be a foil card, potentially an alt art foil. The other 2 are going to be one of another set of cards that could be any one of the other types of 5 cards: character, armor, inspiration, special, or weapon, that aren't directly connected to any of the other things. They might show up later, they might be tied into other things, so just some other ones you can add and mix and match. And that's the coolest part about this game, is you can mix and match everything. You can take your Japanese warrior, give them a roaming weapon, have a South African armor with an Egyptian inspiration, and a Norse special card. And you can mix and match all your different things together. So it adds for some really cool combinations. The game is also built to be fairly easy to collect. Because again, every pack you buy, everything is technically a common card. You buy a pack, you're getting 2 sets of warrior packs, and you're getting 2 other of cards. So of the warrior, there are 200 different cards in that set. So I think that ends up being 50 different warriors, if I'm correct. And then the Chronos cards are 40 different Chronos cards. But you're getting 2 every pack, so they're fairly simple and easy to collect. There's no super rare and ultra rare cards, quote unquote, technically. The only cards that are of a higher rarity are the alternate art cards, which are of the champions, of any of the champions in the game, the main set or the Chrono set. But they bear no difference. They just have different pictures on them. So they're not hindering you from buying something that somebody else can't get. And then aside from that, in the booster packs, there are also 3 other... there's one card that's technically an uncommon that falls way at the end of the set. And then there are 3 rare cards, which are all alternate art cards as well. But they're like super special, fancy alt art cards. The very hardest one to get, which there's only 100 produced, is actually a preview for set 2. So it's the only card that technically isn't just the alt art of a different card in the game right now, but it will be in set 2. So again, it's not like it's a big hindrance for anybody. So that's really cool. With that being said, though, the starter deck here, since we're talking about that, is going to have 4 playable champions and 4 loadouts. So this is kind of cool because you can jump in there, you have 4 different characters to play as, or warriors, I keep calling them characters. You have 4 different warriors to play as, you can switch and mix out, plus there are 5 of 10 collectible bonus cards. So there's actually going to be basically what's essentially going to be kind of look like another little mini pack in there. There's another warrior in there, they set of 5 cards. I think 3 of them are, I think 3, some of them are, a couple of the cards in there are exclusive to the starter deck, as well as all the regular main starter decks. Then there's a few of them, though, that not exclusive. You get like 2 of 5 cards of the set. So then you essentially have to buy or trade with someone else to get the rest from the starter set. That's the only thing that's kind of the one little downside of this game, is because they have a few cards that, not just because they're exclusive, but because there's only a few of each one. But also being said, there is a reason to buy multiples of cards, because if you want to make multiple deck loadouts, you don't have to keep pulling cards out of one thing to another. And there are some cards that let you use duplicates of other cards. He might let you have 2 weapons or 2 armors, or 2 inspirations or stuff like that. There's occasionally things that let you break the rules, so having a duplicate of a card isn't always a bad thing. Alright, so let's hop in and actually see what's in the actual deck here, or in the thing. We have the rule book, which we kind of just went over a little bit, but yeah, like here's our grid we're going to play. I say there's I'm going to do a how to play video on this, you can check out. We did it there, so I'm not going to go over too much, but it's just showing off. We have the what is a champion card, and their different things, a weapon card, an armor card, which will have different areas where you can wear the armor, inspiration cards, special cards, and then how you fight, basically, preparing to fight up, your different rounds, showing how you can move around the board, not spending too much time on this, because again, we'll do that in the tutorial. It's not the best of rule books in terms of, like, it explains the game fairly well. It explains what to do, how to play the basics of the game. There are a couple of things that could be improved, because first of all, it's a lot of, outside of the big pictures here, it's a lot of just text. And there's very few pictures explaining how some of these other things work. And then there's some keywords or things that come up that aren't mentioned, because maybe as of right now in the first set, out of the 240, I think 44 cards plus all the ones from the starter set, so like 5, 10, 15, 20, 250 some cards total. There's like a couple of cards that mention like allies, which aren't really brought up too much in here, or there's a couple of instances that come up like one card does this thing or one does this, and they didn't really address it specifically in the rule book. But most rulebooks don't catch every single thing every single card says either. Go play any game and pick up a starter deck. Alright, then we have our playmat. So I'm just going to open this up really quick. This is just a simple playmat. They do, the Trivium Studios, who created the game, they do have their web store. Oh, come on. Open up. Where they're going to eventually, they haven't yet, they're available during the Kickstarter. But they will eventually have more playmats available that have like different backgrounds or different colors. They also have one up to 4 players. You can play this as a 4-player game, which can either be 2-player teams or 4-player free-for-all. But that's what you can do is, yeah, you're gonna have your character on the board, your warrior, and they're gonna move around, and then you can see the spots where you play your cards. And what's neat is because you're always playing face down. So even if I buy 1 pack of cards and I have my warrior, my opponent has their warrior, and we have 4 cards each, you could play multiple games by just switching up your loadout cards every time. And then plus you have the 2 Chronos cards, you could add that in there, play around, maybe swap each other's cards. So like you could get a lot of value just out of a deck of cards. Alright, then we are also going to get some elemental dice. So we have like a clear blue one, and I have a green one here, which is interesting. So I already bought a box of these before. I was just curious if I knew where my dice went, because I thought both of my dice from the original one were clear. I'll have to look at that later. We'll have to try and find that and do a comparison. But yeah, it's kind of elemental dice. Then what do we have for our packs? So we have a couple of little extra packs in here. So basically the 4 packs are 4 warriors. So you're getting 4 warriors. These 3 are actual sets right in a row. This one here is kind of a special one. It kind of shows you what, like a little bit more randomization. And then we get 2 bonus cards of 5. So again, that's the only thing I kind of thought was a downside. So let's see who we actually have in this set. So we're going to start off with this one. And I kind of like that these come in little separate packs, because then you could be like, hey, I open up a pack, you open up a pack. We can sit down and play a game. Alright, so we are going to start with Miyamoto Musashi. And then just as a quick run through, for anyone who wants to know what you think, so up in the top corner is our initiative number. Every card will have an initiative number. Basically, what that's going to do is determine who gets to play first that round. So whichever warrior has it first, they get to go first. And then when you flip up the rest of your loadout cards, you'll get to go first if your number is higher. So having a higher number is usually better because you have more options and you're attacking. I mean, you get to attack first rather than defend first. But you get to flip on the opposite and do the other thing. So it's not always you have to have the highest. Sometimes the card you have might have a low initiative, but it might have a really powerful ability. And also your champions initiative is also going to break ties. So sometimes having a higher can be better for there. The second one we have the heart is your health. This is how much damage Miyamoto can take. The lightning bolt are the number of actions per turn. Everything you do in the game is going to take an action. Every time you move 1 space, that's an action. If you just want to rotate in your spot, that's an action. You can move and rotate at the same time for free. If you move, you get a free rotation. If you want to attack, that's an action. If you want to use a special power, that's an action. And my camera's falling. Most champions currently right now have 4 actions. There are a few that have less, and there might be one that has 1 more, but it's usually pretty even. In the big center here is our attack grid. So the right arrow is the direction your champion is facing. Sorry, I bumped my camera. On that grid that we saw earlier, and then it's showing what spaces they can attack in. So Miyamoto can attack the 2 spaces in front of him, the one to the right or the left of him, and then one to like upper right a little bit. And then the numbers in there just mean how many bonus they get when they roll their dice. So basically, if I'm rolling my dice and I have an 11 here, If I attacked right in front of me or another one, it would actually be a 12. If I attacked up to the 0, I would just have an 11. So you get little bonuses for strategically attacking at different spots. Alright, then the little iron ball there is just saying how much damage my basic attacks do. And then a little defense. Some characters have a built-in defense. This would be if I am defending against an opponent. So, if, like, example, someone attacked me with an 11, and I rolled and I got a 6, plus a 1, so I have 7. If I had defense, I'd have an 8. Or, yes, learn my math. And then the little symbol in the top corner is the element. Various cards will reference elements as well. Then, of course, we have the beautiful artwork on the pictures. On the bottom, always the illustration of who did that. Starter set, card number 1. In here, we have our list. We have champions. So this is what type of card it is. Then we have location or region. Asia, Africa, America, Europe. And I don't know if there's anything currently in the game, like card-wise it references, but this can be used for different alternate game modes. You could have a culture shock mode, which is, when you're building a game, you can only use characters of the same culture. So if I say Asia, I can only use different characters from Asia. Now, Asia can be Japanese or Chinese, right? It can be multiple different things. America, eventually, when they have more, could be Canada, could be Mexico, could be North America, the United States, right? Because it's North America. Sorry, I should say North America, not just America. And then the next one we have Japanese, which then puts you down to a little bit more. That's their culture. And again, you can have stuff where I can only play certain ones of that. Or so there might be occasionally times they reference cards of that. And then for champions, they have a special last one called the Rift, which is their color. And there are going to be things that mention which type of Rift. Rift characters kind of the similar color kind of work very similar to each other. So very interesting. Alright, so then we have here is Miyamoto's actual abilities. Let's hop in this. This champion may use 2 one-handed sword cards this game. Whenever an enemy hits this champion with a weapon, move 1 space. Then this champion gains a +1 attack value to their next attack this round. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. So first of all, he can break the cardinal rule. So starter deck cards are already breaking the rule. Normally you can only have 1 of each type of card. But he gets to actually... he can use 2 one-handed sword cards in a game. So you could get rid of one of your inspiration, your armor, your special, and put a second one-handed sword weapon. Now, it has to be a one-handed sword. There are going to be 2-handed swords. There's going to be one-handed pole arms or daggers, or axes, or 2-handed things. So it makes a big distinction. You can't just say a sword of any type, or just because it looks like a sword. And that's just whenever an enemy hits him with a weapon, you get a free movement. So if you get hit with a weapon and take damage, you get a free movement, and then you gain 1 attack value on the next attack this round. So what's very important here is he actually wants to go second, because that way if someone hits him, he gets to move, he can kind of adjust, maybe get out of their attack range so they can't hit him a second time, or set himself up immediately for his turn to be able to attack again. And then if you are going second, you get a +1 on your attack value, which is the same we had up here. So if I had rolled that, so if I rolled again and I got an 8, and then you had a +1 there, it'd be 9, this would give you up to a 10. But if you went first that round, obviously you can't get hit with a weapon first. And then on the bottom, we have a bunch of flavor text, which talks about the character, which is always really neat, because then you learn a little bit more historical stuff about them. It says, undefeated in 60-plus duels, Musashi founded the Nitten Ichiryu, 2 swords as 1, and wrote the Goren no Sho, Book of 5 Rings, on how to win every situation. So very cool. Alright, our second card up is we have card number 2, which is the Boten, like a wooden sword. So initiative of 5, it keeps a lot of the same stuff. Weapons have their own attack grid. So if I am attacking, I have to have my opponent in one of those spaces. So copying from Musashi, space right in front of the space to the left. If he's pointing there, he can hit with either one. But he might have a guy in attack range of his basic attack, but not his weapon attack, or vice versa. We also have our damage, does 2 damage, but it has a little coin by it that says 1. This is how many actions it costs. Weapons can only be used once. Once they're used, they're depleted, turned sideways. And they can only be used per number of actions. There are some that, I think there's 1 card in the entire set that's a free action. There are some that are 2 actions. There could be some that cost 3 or more. And it's just kind of a way to, like, gauge their power on there. But so this says weapon, Asia, Japanese sword. Down here we see it's a one-handed weapon. It says Kuboken may be used in this game. Whenever this champion attacks and misses with this weapon, make a free basic attack against that defender. So again, we have a starter card that's already breaking the fundamental rules. So you can use Kubokens in this game. So specifically this card, any warrior can use. So this is one reason why if you had 2 starter decks, now you have Kubokens. So now you could use this card twice. Otherwise, it's going to be trouble hunting it down. So that's kind of neat to get. It's a neat reason for them to, if you have to buy a second starter deck to try and find all the cards, at least they gave you this as an option. But yeah, then it also works with his other ability too. But it says, whenever this champion attacks and misses with this weapon, make a free basic attack. So yeah, if you're attacking in that space right in front of you or to the space to the left of you and you miss, you roll and you get a 10 and your opponent somehow rolls higher than a 10. It'd be pretty good if they did. You miss, but now you can do a free basic attack, but only if they're in that attack grid. So if I was attacking at this +1 here, I wouldn't be able to make a basic attack. So lining up the weapon sometimes with your different champions can make a huge difference. The wooden training sword crafted to mimic the weight and shape of a katana allows for safe practice against steel and provides mastery that outweighs metal. Alright, we have a third blue card. We have the kimono. So this one, now you notice they don't have anything up at the top. Armor, Asia, Japanese, and light. I don't think there's been too many cards that reference the weight of the armor because there's light, medium, and heavy, but it's always something that might come up. This is a chest armor. Like in the picture in the instruction book they'll mention, you can only have armor or equipment of the body parts you have. So if you have a headpiece of armor, you can't have a head endowment in your special thing. If you have a 2-handed weapon, you can't carry a 1-handed weapon as well. If you have chest armor on, you can't have another card that would give you chest armor. So you can't have 2 of the same things on. You could have a 1-handed sword and a 1-handed, like, let's say, lamp or torch or something in your other hand, or a 1-handed shield. So that kind of limits you that way. So this has a power move called Jump. Spend 1 action, move 1 space diagonally. So anytime they're a bolded thing, they're a special action you have to spend, which means you have to deplete them. This allows you to move diagonally. So typically you can only move left, right, up, down, or known as orthogonally. This lets you move diagonally, gets you to get across the board a little bit more. Plus you also have a free rotation every time you do this. So it's a really neat thing. More than simple clothing, a samurai kimono outweighs and marks the clan crust layered underneath the armor in battle, represents honor, duty, and tradition. So now what's also cool is we have these layouts. We've had 3 blue cards. So far, he's already been a water character. Our 4th card is our inspiration, and it's actually a fire type. And that's really neat. Then we have different elements that can mix together. So it's not all the characters are always one element only. So we have the Musha Shogu, Inspiration Asia, Japanese, and it's an event. Reveal. So what happens here is when you reveal this card at the beginning of the round, if you have the initiative, or whenever it kicks off, whoever has initiative first gets to do the reveal first, then it gets to kick off. It says, attacking champions gain +1 attack value and deal 1 additional damage till the end of round. So what this does is it means both you and your opponent are going into a one-on-one duel with this card. And they each get to do +1 on your battle grid, and then you also get to do 1 additional damage. Now, if you played this really early on, you could get extra damage right off the bat. But you may only have your basic attack to use. If you play this later, you might have your sword as well as your extra damage. Now imagine if you had 2 Boken out, right? And this card came out afterwards. This is your 3rd card. So if you had 2 Boken out, and then every time you miss with a Boken, you gotta make a basic attack, right? So if you hit with the Boken, you get 3 damage. Plus you have a +1. So if you hit in one of these, if you hit in this area here, which ideally, because that matches your other thing, you have a +2 on there right off the bat, and you do 3 damage. If you miss, then you jump back over here, you get a free +1 for 2 damage. So, you have potentially a chance to do 3 or 2 damage, and if you have a second Boken, you could attack with that one, again, potentially. So you might do 4 damage up to the maximum there, which when someone has 9 health, 8 or 9 health, that's half their damage in one turn. But it's also the double-edged sword, because then it comes back at you. So yeah, it's very interesting. The Musha Shogo Samurai Pilgrims of Self-Discovery test the mastery of skills, determination, and character through discipline, sacrifice, and relentless training. And then our last card for him is the Goring no Sho, Special Asia Japanese, and this one's a tome. It also has a reveal. It says, all water and wood champions move 1 space. All non-water, non-wood champions lose 2 attack value until the end of the round. So this is one that's beneficial to you. You have a water warrior, based on the blue card background and the little symbol. So you get to move 1 free space when it does. Helps you either get away from your opponent or move in, depending on if you're the attacker or defender, at this time. And then they lose, assuming they are not a water or a wood champion, they lose -2. Now again, this could be a double-sided thing to come after you. If they are playing someone that is a water or wood, then they have no downside and they get a free movement as well. Kind of just know what's going to happen. Musashi's Classic Guide to Strategy and Tactics, the Goring no Sho Book of 5 Rings, teaches mindset training and how to win all battles in war. Alright, so that was our first warrior. So let's take a look at our second warrior, see how different they can be. We're going to jump into Spartacus. So champion Europe, he's a gladiator in silver. So now this is interesting. So he's the only gladiator in this set. Everyone else typically has like a nation as their culture. But being gladiators kind of got stripped, historically, they got stripped of their nationality. Like, he wasn't known as being, Roman, or they weren't known as being whatever they were from. You're a gladiator now. That's who you are. So we see some different stat lines up there. He has 5 initiative, 10 health, 4 actions. His line goes straight across the front, and he's a metal warrior. He also has the Silver Realm. And it says, as long as this champion has a revealed one-handed weapon card, gain +1 attack value. As long as this champion has a revealed shield card, gain +1 defense. Spartacus was a self-liberated Myrmidional gladiator who led the Gladiator War, the largest slave revolt in Roman history. Rome made him fight, and he made Rome bleed. So yeah, he's a really interesting guy because depending on what you reveal first, your weapon or your armor, and if your armor is a shield and your weapon's a one-handed sword, or one-handed weapon, doesn't have to be a sword, it's a one-handed weapon, you get better attack or better defense. You kind of can set your deck up, your loadout, your deck that way ahead of time. So what does he have for a weapon? He has the Culina Culturo. So 2 damage, but 7 cost. Not 7 initiative weapons. It's a utility. Gain +1 weapon attack badge unless this champion has moved this round before attacking with this weapon. So this is, again, a unique strategy. If you've moved first, you get an extra weapon attack. And we just saw, we had, you could use, if you mix with Miyamoto, you have the kimono. You could have the kimono equipped to Spartacus. You could get a diagonal movement on your turn if you want. That's a possibility. Kitchen utensils can be used for food preparation or as weapons of opportunity to escape the ludus incapita and free the slave rebellion against the Roman Empire. For some armor, we have the Cassius Christia, which is a helmet. And so now we're getting another color in there. So now we have purple, which I believe is Aether. It's either Aether or Void. I can never remember which one's which. I think it's the Aether. Armor, Europe, Gladiator, medium weight. Reroll, adjust one of the champions' defense dice to a 4. So this is, again, it's a neat thing. You can spend it. Now, you don't have to spend an action to do this, but it has a power thing. So you have to deplete it, which means you can't use it multiple times. But if I get attacked, right, I rolled a 6 and a 4. I would definitely keep that. But let's say I rolled a 2 and a 3, which is bad, 7. I could use my reroll ability to turn this into a 4, which is on here somewhere. So now I at least have a 7, which is better than a 5. Still might not let me win, but at least it's a cool ability to have. Alright, then we have the Inspiration, which is a fire card, Liberatus. Combos, so again, a power ability. Spend 1 action. Move 1 space, then make a base attack against each adjacent enemy. So what's cool here is because you're playing a multiplayer game, there's multiple enemies. Or, if your opponent has allies out, they can sometimes summon ally cards. Then you'd have a cool way to counteract that, so that's pretty neat. Love that they're using like spades, forks, they have a soup ladle, they have their different weapons and stuff. Yeah, and then you move 1 space. This works well with your weapon he just had. He can use this to spend a point to get a free movement, and he gets a free attack with his weapon, right? And then, because you've already moved, you get a +1 to your weapon damage. And then you don't have to spend your extra attack. Then now you don't have to spend your attack to do that. It's a basic attack. You get a free basic attack, but then now you're already there for your weapon, so you got your bonus for your weapon. Just kind of neat. So you get 2 attacks, and you get a boost up with only to spend a regular movement. So that's pretty neat. Did we not read this? The heavy crested bronze helmet of the Murmillo Gladiator featured a drill faceplate for protection and fish-shaped fin crest to add height and intimidation. The Liberatus was... Libertas, the Roman goddess of liberty, symbolizes freedom and embodies the spirit of independence. She was a patron of freedom men throughout the Roman Republic. Awesome. And our last one for him is the Scutum. So he has a special, which is a shield, which is not taking his armor space, but it is a one-handed. So if he puts this and his other one-handed weapon on to gain his initial abilities, he can't have a two-handed weapon. But once per round, whenever a champion moves into a space in this Metal Champion's base attack grid, deplete this card and deal 1 damage to that champion. So if they move into your area, one of your little ones that had a number, they take a point of damage. And you can only do it once. The large curved and rectangular shield of the Roman legionnaires and the Murmillo Gladiators protects from head to toe and builds shield walls and turtle formations. And this is a void card. So it's pretty neat. We also notice this has to be a metal champion. So like we had this stuff with Miyamoto that used wood or water champions. This uses a metal champion. So we already see some cards we can cross over and have some interesting strategies. We see some cards we can't cross over. Alright, for our third champion in here we have... And hopefully I'm not going to butcher this name too much, but this is Kahulalan. So she is a Earth Champion. So she has a 4 initiative. She has the lowest initiative of the 3. 10 health, 4 speed. But she has a built-in defense point up there on her shield. So that's kind of cool. That she can automatically block or have 1 extra point of blocking. So that means every time I roll for defense, I now have a 7. I roll again, I have an 8. I'm not rolling very well. Champion, Asian, Mongol, and Brown. So you have 3 different colors. You'll notice lots of the times the rift will match the outside color of the card. It's not going to always, because there's some other colors like pink, orange, yellow, which don't match one of the 5, or I think 6, 7 elements. Because enemies must spend one additional action to move out of the spaces in this champion's base attack grid. Once per game, if this champion has revealed a cavalry card, move an enemy into a space adjacent to this champion. So, okay, so basically here's why this, and this is also, I love the theming of these cards. The great-great-granddaughter of Genghis Khan, the warrior princess Kuhulun, led armies on horseback, so they're cavalry, and out-wrestled every suitor who competed for her hand in marriage. She's also a wrestler, so that's where you get those two themings there. So yeah, if they're in one of these three spaces, if they want to move out of it, and it doesn't matter why they're moving out, if they're spending a card that says, reveal, move this guy, they have to spend an additional action point to move. If they try and use the kimono to jump out of the area, they have to spend an additional action point to move. So anytime they leave that area, they have to spend one extra point. So if she gets in close, she's going to hold them tight. Or cost them extra points. And also, when she gets a cavalry card, she can move an enemy into a space adjacent to her, so you can pull them in. Only happens once per game, but could be very good. And I say that technically because usually cavalry is only on one type of card, but there's always a chance it could be on something else as well. So they might have a chance to do it multiple times. Let's see what our first thing is. We have a weapon. We have the Cthulhu. So it does 2 damage. Has a little bit different attack speed than some of the other ones. But again, another one-handed weapon, which works for all 3 of these warriors. Is a dagger. So it's not the sword, so it doesn't work with the sword abilities. As long as this champion has revealed an earth or metal cavalry card, this weapon deals 1 additional damage. So kind of like we had Spartacus got bonuses based on if he had a shield or sword burst. This is going to get a bonus if you have a cavalry first, or whenever it shows up. If you do it first, and then you do this card second, as soon as it comes out, it's going to do 3 damage. If you do this first, and then your second card is a cavalry, then every turn after that, it'll be 1. Just the first turn, it won't have the extra damage. Passed down through generations. The Cthulhu is a traditional curved knife and Mongol's trusted companion for woodworking, hunting, dining, and close combat. For our armor, we have the Zdag, which is a light body armor. Here it says, react. When enemy makes a base attack against you, against this champion, gain +1 defense until the end of the round. So yeah, if they try and hit you, you get a free extra defense point. It's not terribly bad, especially when Shardy has a built-in one. So that means the first base attack that hits every turn, when this is out, she has +2 to her dice rolls. So it's all of a sudden, now I have a 7, instead of a 5. So that's, again, might not be bad, but if you're rolling as crappy as I am, the opponent might be rolling just as bad. This traditional Mongol wrestling jacket worn, open chest to reveal strength and spirit, symbolizing honor, power, legacy, and these steppe warriors. Alright, our inspiration is Soilan. It's an event card. Gain +1 defense value. Once per game at the beginning of this champion's turn, an earth or metal champion, so this could also work with Spartacus, may spend this card to deal 2 damage to an adjacent champion. And then she also has the ability, when she plays cavalry card, she could bring a guy next to him, so she could kind of combine those together. But yeah, as long as this is out, you have +1 extra defense value. So giving this to anybody, even if you give this to Miyamoto, who does not have, he's not earth or metal, he's a water, he's still getting extra defense every turn. So that's not even terribly bad. The traditional Mongol festivals of the 3 mainly games, wrestling, archery, and horse racing, in the 20 to 30 kilometers, so long for a 5-year-old horses is the most honored race. And then her last card is Bulk, Special Asian Mongol and Martial Arts. So this also has another react. When this champion takes 2 or more damage from a single attack, roll a d6. On a 4, 5, or 6, reduce that damage by 1. So yeah, basically, you roll half the time. She's going to have extra defense. I rolled an 8. I have a 9 for defense. Somehow your opponent pulled out some extra stuff, had some extra bonuses, got a better one. Okay, so I actually took damage of 2 or more. I got a 4, now I only take 1 damage. So this could be very good if your opponent's hitting with high attacking weapons like Spartacus can. Or the Bolton had like 2 damage, right? So if they're hitting you with some of these weapons that have extra damage on them. So that could be very helpful for you just to take less damage. So ancient Mongol wrestling has over 400 moves, no weight class, no time limits. The Boltkogal match ends when one competitor hits the ground. So very cool. Now the other thing you're also going to notice in here, she does not have a cavalry card. She has a couple different things that mention cavalry. They did not give her a cavalry card. Which I think is a very fun mechanic, because it's like, no, it's like having the Boken, getting a second Boken, or having Spartacus says, if I have a one-handed weapon or a shield, it'll make you want to find a one-handed weapon or a shield and try out with different versions. This is the same thing. You don't have a cavalry card, which means it's showing you, it's teaching you in the game, you can play this character without having something that meets every single requirement of every single card. So I think that's a really cool idea. Alright, so then the fourth pack is kind of the mix match pack. So I thought this was an interesting idea for them to do too. So we have 3 characters that have cards that definitely define them. Then we have kind of like a random pack. So here we have Napoleon Bonaparte. So he has some interesting stuff. He has 5 health instead of the normal 10, but he also has 5 action points. You also notice he has some negatives up there. He can still hit in them areas, but he's going to hit less. So his ideal spot is just right in front of him. But he has a couple of things. He's Europe, he's French, and he has a yellow rift power. So it's first time it doesn't really match the color of the card. He has Deploy. At the start of each round, place up to 3 unrevealed loadout cards adjacent to this champion as a 1 life, 1 damage, 0 defense minions. Spend actions to move them and attack using this champion's base attack grid. So what he gets to do is you take your other 4 cards. At the beginning of each round, you can pick any number of them, 1 to 4, and you can place out extra characters on the board. So now when you have extra minions on the board, now your opponent has other things they have to deal with. They don't win for taking them out. They don't gain points or extra things for taking them out. So they basically set up a barricade. Your opponent can't just walk through them, so they have to stop, they're going to have to fight them, or you're going to have extra free attacks with them. Potentially when Napoleon kind of sits in the back and says, hey, army guys, you guys, my French army, you guys go attack. And your opponent has to spend extra actions either trying to move around them or attack them, which then means it's less they can hit Napoleon with. The flip side of it, the counterpoint to it, is that if you pick 2 of these cards, then your first round 1 and 2, you don't have any initiative, you have nothing to activate. Now you could pick cards 3 and 4, and you could do stuff with your first 2 rounds. You could pick cards 1 and 3, and still have an action on turn 1 and turn 3. So you're kind of sacrificing your other things to boost these guys up, to get these guys out. And it's foolish because it's not just at the beginning of the game you have to pick them. You could play your first card, which is your weapon, and then at next turn you could get rid of your... the guy got next to me. Let me drop a minion in front of me and get rid of your 4th card. Now that I've seen what they're playing. It's just kind of neat. You can do stuff like that. It's a different idea of playing the game. From Moscow beginnings, Napoleon rose to the military ranks, conquered Europe, crowned himself emperor, and reshaped society with his Napoleonic code. Alright, so now we're going to get some crazy stuff in here. We have the Wakizashi. So this is a one-handed sword from Asia, Japan. So again, this could be used with a bunch of the different characters. But it doesn't fit the French theme that we had for Napoleon. So this has whenever this champion is hit by a weapon attack, make a free attack with this weapon against the attacker. So we had some stuff with Musashi, which said if he got hit with an attack, he could make a free basic attack, right? Red deck, maybe it wasn't on him. We had one of the cards that said that. This is the idea if you get hit with a weapon, you can make a free one with this one. But only if you're in that range. So if your opponent happens to be hitting you from a farther distance, or they're hitting you from that spot right there, and that's where they're standing, you don't get that. But it kind of makes them have to be worried about hitting you. The Shakti pair with Katana as a Dashio Symbolizes the samurai's soul. It serves in dual self-defense and only in seppuku when good demands the ultimate price. Alright, our next thing is we don't even have an armor. We just have a straight up inspiration. This is the only downside because we have an inspiration and not an armor. That means technically Napoleon is not a fully playable character out of the box. We have Occam's Razor. Inspiration, Europe, Britain, and ideology. Reveal. Ignore all other card effects, attack and defense modifications, and set the target attack grids to 0 until the end of the round. So this basically just, this pops up, boom, everything's ignored. So if your opponent plays, I'm playing this awesome card, I'm going to do this really cool thing this turn, you're like, nope, you're not doing any of that. You don't get any of your effects, you don't get any bonuses. Like if they Miyamoto played the thing where all champions doing extra damage and getting plus extra attack, all of a sudden, nope, now they don't. So it's a neat way to shut a bunch of stuff down. In Occam's Razor, also known as the laws of parasolomy, the 14th century philosopher William of Occam asserts that the simplest explanation is usually the correct one, so resetting everything back to 0. Our next card is we have the special from Middle East, Mesopotamian, and cavalries. Now we have a cavalry we can add in to Cthulhu on. So it's the Arabian Horse. Whenever this champion wins initiative, move 1 space to the start of the champion's turn. Whenever the champion loses initiative, gain +1 base attack value till the end of the round. So it's kind of neat. So if you play high, you play this right off the bat. Or whenever you play it, every turn afterwards, if you have a high initiative, you're going to get free movement. If not, you play low ones, you get extra basic attacks. So depending on what type of character you're playing, this might be better beneficially. And then plus you have someone like her cards, which will trigger off a cavalry. So the Arabian Horse, one of the oldest and rarest breeds, plays a vital role in warfare. Its endurance speed is unmatched in battle and in desert life. And then our final of the packs is Easter Island, which is really interesting as well. So it's special Oceania, Pacific, Islander, and terrain. So terrain's a brand new keyword. So you have deploy. We've seen deploy with Napoleon. Place this card in an unoccupied center space of the arena. So this does is it goes from your layout board to the middle of the arena, and now it causes a wall. So everyone has to move around this. You have to walk around this. You have to attack around this. So again, kind of combining this even with Napoleon, right? You play this, you drop it in the middle of the board, and then you play 3 of his other characters on the other spaces. You could basically create like a wall of 4 things that your opponent has to now try and get around. And maybe the only downside there is that whoever has the most life at the end of the game wins. So if Napoleon doesn't do something to attack and hit their opponent, if they have 9 health to start with and he only has 5, he's going to lose anyhow. But it's an interesting combination you could possibly do. The isolated in the southwestern Pacific, 350 kilometers off the coast of Chile, the Moan statues and coral obsidian eyes watch over Easter Islands and the Rapa Nui people. So one thing that does happen here is I just want to point out as a quick thing is we have 2 specials. So the way the game would work is you're not technically allowed to ever have, when you build your game, you're not supposed to have 2 of the same type of cards. Unless you have a broken rule like Miyamoto or the Balkans. If you ever, for whatever reason, did, if Arabian was out and then you revealed Easter Islands, Arabian would immediately be destroyed and you'd have to play Easter Islands. It automatically destroyed it. Now, Anachronism, the game this is originally designed around, you could build that as a strategy. The idea is you could put any 4 loadout cards. You could put 4 weapons in there, but every time you revealed a new weapon, you would have to get rid of 1 of your 2 weapons. But you got to choose. With Time Rift, though, they changed that. If you have a second card, the new one, I believe it's one of the 2. Might be, I think it's the original one, but it might be the new one. But one of the 2 is always destroyed, and you don't get an option because they technically don't want you to play away. Now, there are obviously game modes you can play and go the other direction, but in standard mode, that's not a thing. Alright, then we have two special cards in here. So, if you'll notice, this goes 16, 17, and then 22, 23, 24. So we're missing 18, 19, 20, 21, 18, 19, 20. And I think we're missing card number 25. So those are the 5 extra random cards. Now these guys are foils. So these are what the Chronos cards are going to be like. They're kind of extra interesting cards. So we have the Tag of Ninetales, which is a cool foil card. Void. So we got a new weapon. So this is kind of neat. This might be different in everybody's deck. So this one has the Tag of Ninetales. It says, weapon, Europe, Britain, and utility. Whenever an adjacent champion activates a reveal power ability, deplete this card and deal 1 damage to that champion. So if a champion is next to you, not even in your attack grid, just in one of the 9 spaces around you, and they do a reveal ability, you can deplete this to 1 damage. So I can penalize them if they're doing a lot of reveal abilities. But it's possible they might never have a reveal ability. But you can use this like Spartacus or, because it's a one-handed weapon. Board ships and this whip 9 knotted cords deliver sharp pain, scarring as punishment, spectacle, and brutal warning to maintain discipline of the crew. The other one we got in this set is Caster. So this one we have a new inspiration, which is Inspiration, Europe, Greek, and Icon. So this is a neat other thing you have in here, breaking the rules a bit. We have Gemini, 1 of 2. Up to 2 Gemini cards may be used in a game. So kind of like Boken can use up to 2 called Boken specifically, this can use up to 2 cards called Gemini. So another one's going to be available in one of the sets. Which I believe the other one is in the booster box. And there's a couple of these even in the regular booster pack sets that don't have all of the numbers yet. They have 1 or 2 of them, but maybe not all of them. So this guy says, reroll. The champion rolls a 2, 4, or 6 on one of the champion's attack or defense rolls. So what does this mean? This means I got a 6 or a 6 and a 1. So I can spend my reroll, spend a point. It rerolls a 2, a 4, or a 6 on one of their rerolls. So I didn't have a 2 or a 4, but I do have a 6. I could reroll my 6. Is there ever a reason why you'd want to reroll a 6 if you're trying to have the highest number? There might be. There could be a card that says if you have this specific number, you get this thing. Or maybe you want to lose because you want to take a hit, right? Hey, if I take a hit, I get this. If I block it, I don't. So maybe you want to roll less to take a hit so you can counter-attack back them and get extra damage. There could be reasons for it. Caster, famed horseman, and mortal twin of Pollux, fought beside his brother in a Mithane battle. In Diocurus, twins were patrons of both Greek and Roman cavalrymen. Alright, so that would have been all the cards that were in that starter deck. But I do have, there's 3 more cards that were available, because you only get the 2 special ones in here. One of the other ones that I got in a previous starter deck I had was Kalari. So this is a special Asia Indian martial arts. It's kind of cool. It's got a second martial arts in here. It says gain +1 base attack value for each revealed martial arts, tactic, or training card in all logos. So that's a neat kind of effect there, because then you can gain bonuses for what other people might have as well. But you also gain it for that. So our other martial arts, though, was also a special one, too, I believe. Yeah, so it was another special, so you wouldn't be able to combine them, unfortunately. But hey, at bare minimum, this gives you +1 attack value. If we can get other tactics or training cards, potentially. Originating in India, Kara Pila Atu, or Kalari, is one of the oldest, most influential martial arts, framed for marming the skill of healing or killing with 1 touch. So in the last 2 cards, I unfortunately don't have. I have, behind the scenes, I have opened 3 starter decks now, and I am still missing the last 2 cards. I do have other dice, though. So we do have 2 brown and I have a brown and a clear one. So I don't know how many different colored dice there are, but that means I have 3 different ones. I'm wondering if there's a fire one, like a red one as well, maybe. But yeah, we're gonna kind of take a quick look at what the last 2 cards are. I have them on my phone here. So at least we can switch the last 2 that could be available in the starter deck are. The one is Lachus. So this is Fates 2 of 3. So we saw we had Castor, which is a Gemini. This is a Fates. I know there's one of the other Fates in the core set, in the base booster packs. But there's the 3rd one is not available, so that won't be until set 3. So it's kind of interesting. We have Inspiration, Europe, Greek, and Divinity. They have Sample on here because this is right from the Trivium Studios Time Rip website, so they have their list gallery of all the cards up, so if you ever want to take a look at them, you definitely can. So I just took a quick picture so we can see what they are. It says reveal, lose 1 defense until the end of the round. So yeah, up to 3 fake cards may be used in this game. So cool. So we do have a lose 1 defense till the end of the round. So the question here is going to become is, why would you want to lose a defense until the end of the round? Part of it could be high initiative. I can force a defense loss to have a high initiative. It might tie in with the other 2 fates. Maybe if you have all 3 fates, maybe they interact and they do some different stuff. So some interesting things that could happen with that kind of connectivity as well. One of the 3 fates in Greek mythology, Lachus, measures the thread of life, deciding a person's destiny and how long each will live before their thread gets cut. Cool. And then we had one more card, which was King Tutankhamun, or King Tut for short, which is interesting that he's not, I guess, I thought he could have also been a champion, but he might not have really been a warrior. But this is inspiration in North Africa, Egyptian, and icon, who has a special ability called Poison. Spend this card. Deal damage to an enemy equal to the number of cards that enemy equal to the number of cards that enemies revealed inspiration cards. So this is where you can basically punish someone for using things like Castor or the Fates, who have multiple inspiration cards out. Couple other things to note on here is, so some of these keywords we have like Jump, which is basically a movement type ability we saw. We have Reroll, which basically changes dice numbers. And then here we have Poison. Poison usually deals some sort of damage, but it's not always they're kind of keywords like, like this is the type of ability is, but it's not always the exact same thing. So it's not like Magic the Gathering, where if you see flying or trample or haste, it's always the same thing. It's more like the keyword phrases where they have it, and then the ability is ideally the same, but they have different effects. And then there's also an interesting other thing, it says spend this card. So spending something means discarding it. So what you're going to do is you actually have to, because it's a PowerPoint, you have to spend it, you basically deplete it, but then you're actually going to spend this card by removing it from the table, so it's no longer going to affect. So if you have anything that says if you have an icon, Egyptian, or an inspiration card, or a void card out, this won't matter anymore, because this card will go away. So it's a one-time use ability. But you can do it whenever you want. So you can play it first, and then they have to worry about it coming up later on, which would be kind of funny too. So King Tutankhamun's boy pharaoh of the Egyptians' 18th dynasty, ruled briefly, became the legend when his tomb was revealed treasures, ancient secrets, and an unworldly knife. Cool. I did say we were going to open up a pack in this video. I lied. We're not going to, just because going through all these extra cards actually took a little bit longer than I thought it was. But what we are going to do instead is there were some promo cards. There's only 3 of them, so I'm going to go through 3 cards rather than 10 brand new cards. So these are promos that were released at, like, they were originally released at, like, Gen Con, and then Kickstarter backers also got a hold of them. They'll probably be at other tournaments and stuff. So these are kind of neat because they add, some additional stuff that could be coming out later on. So we have the Legion of Honors. So this is an Inspiration Europe French and Honor card. So this would be our second French card. It says reveal, move this champion and all allies up to 1 space, gain 1 life. So Napoleon said the soldier needs glory, distinction, rewards. So they forged the Legion of Honor for those worthy of France's highest military civil honors. So what's cool about this one is because if you're not playing with any allies, it gives you a space and you gain 1 life. That's definitely not bad. But if you're playing with some allies, this could be really good. Yeah, like imagine Napoleon, like we had him, we saw earlier. You could take up to 4 of your cards and turn them into soldiers. Now imagine if your first turn, before the game starts, you take cards 2, 3, and 4, turn them into soldiers, and then this is your first card up. So when this gets revealed, you can move all them guys 1 space closer to the enemy already. Has a 5 initiative, so you may lose and they may get a first advantage. But if they don't, you get an attack right away. You can have a bunch of extra attacks. The only downside is if you use this on the first turn, you wouldn't gain your life. Because you can go above your total, let's say. Yeah, that's what I say. So you could go up to 6 life and be a little bit more stable. So it's actually pretty good for him. But there are other guys that have allies that just summon like 1 ally card. This could be useful for that. I'm also assuming allies include if you have a 2-player game and you're doing, or a 4-player game, you're playing 2v2, you could assume whoever's on your team is your ally. So our next one up that's really cool is a medal card. We have the Skjold, the Norse Shield, Europe Shield, one-handed shield. Reveal, the champion may rotate, so you get a free rotate out of this if you would like, and it does say may, so it's optional. At the start of this champion's turn, if this champion has revealed a one-handed metal or water weapon, complete this card and move up to 1 space. So yeah, at the beginning of your turn, you can deplete this card to use it, to give you an extra movement, if you have a metal or water weapon. And that's kind of cool, because this works really well with our starter set. So we have our Bolton, which is our water weapon, and we had our Culinary Citra, which is a metal weapon, which wants you to be able to move. So yeah, that's pretty helpful there as well. So yeah, they're both one-handed weapons. So yeah, you get moving extra space. So you can either use the water one to move around or use the other one to gain the advantage for moving. And it's kind of neat because being a shield, it also works with Spartacus having a shield. But notice it doesn't give you any extra defense. So it's kind of interesting there. Then our last promo, we have 3 promo cards. We have kind of a preview of set 2. We're jumping into some pirates. We have Champion Europe, Pirate in Gold. This is Olivier Levasseur. So he has 10 health, 4 actions. A little bit interesting board because he can attack behind him. But he has 2 special words. He has push. When this champion hits with a base attack, move the defender 1 space. So he can get guys away from you. And then he has reroll. As long as no enemies are adjacent to this champion, reroll this champion's attack roll. Yeah, so his idea is he wants to hit you with a base attack to knock you away. And then, well, he's hitting you at a ranged distance. He's going to be able to reroll his attack. So if he rolls bad, he can reroll a second time. And that's kind of the whole ability. And I did do a video on this earlier when these guys were during the Kickstarter when they're still only previewing. We only knew about the starter cards. I did him versus Cthulhuan, because she wants everyone up close and uses her cavalry to bring people in. He wants to push people away. And it was an interesting match because there are conflicting things they wanted to be doing. But again, I don't have, at that point, I didn't have any like extra long-range weapons. I only had a couple of swords, or one-handed weapons. So yeah, as you get into some of the booster pack stuff, he becomes even more efficient because you can get some weapons that can hit at distances, which is really helpful. So the new straw's neck, the buzzard of the Indian Ocean, gives a 17-line hint to the crowd. Decode it and find the largest treasure hidden in pirate history. Ooh, does that not sound kind of familiar? It kind of sounds like this is the guy that Goldie Roger from One Piece was based off of. Or at least partially in a sense. So that's what we have for our Time Rift starter set. So yeah, if you pick this up, you will get the 3 characters. You get Miyamoto, Musashi, Cthulhu, and Spartacus, and there are 4 loadout cards. Then you also get Napoleon, and you'll get 4 loadout cards with him that you can't technically use because you're missing a weapon. But then you'll get 2 of the 5 special other cards. Which then you might buy a second starter deck, hopefully pick up another couple of them. Or you might end up having to trade with some people. And that's, I said, this is only one downside of the collection of this game. The booster packs, I think, are generally fair enough. You're trying to collect everything. You buy enough packs, you'll hopefully be able to get enough. Or, if, hey, I got Champion A and you have Champion B, you could trade some of them. Or same like the Chronos cards. The starter deck's a little bit more off because I can see buying a second one to get the extra Boken. Maybe have a duplicate of each card if you some of the loadout cards if you wanted. But yeah, then you basically end up having to buy a third because that would only give you potentially 4 of the 5. And it's at the point you get a third, then you're just having extra cards you might not really need anymore. Unless, again, you're making a ton of different decks. It depends on how much you're into that. So that's what we have for Time Rift. Come back to it. We have booster boxes we're going to go through, see what we have there. I've already opened one previously, along with a couple other bonus packs I've had from the Kickstarter. Regular packs, same as everything else. But I ended up losing the video for that. That's why I'm re-recording these. And then we do have another booster box, which we will jump through. And then this, which I'll go a full unboxing for. And then another one, I might just end up pulling out the rares and like with my original one, just pull out the foils and stuff. And look at some of the ones that weren't in there or things we were missing from the first set. See you guys there. Bye.